Afternoon, everybody. It's been a while, probably 2 months that I did my last video. So I've spent the last 2 months just busy completing my permaculture design, and I thought I'd share that with you. So that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be a long video because I want to share my thoughts on the design, or the actual design, and I want to share the company that I did my PDC with, and right at the end I'll give you some thoughts on my experience with the course. So I decided to do my online permaculture course with a Canadian company, Verge Permaculture. I'll put it in the show notes, a link to their website. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed it, learned a ton. Considering that I had, when I'm interested in something, I'm all in. I don't hold back. So I've probably knew a lot of the information even before I did the course, just from reading and videos, and I get fully absorbed into these things. So, but it was a fun course in terms of what we learned and how they taught it. And I ended up going with Verge predominantly because they've got a strong emphasis in holism, and the idea of holistic management, which I think is not the idea, the principles of holistic management. And I find that's a vitally important thing, especially if you're in the regenerative agriculture space. You can't really separate the idea of holism from regen as a whole. They're intertwined. So that's why I chose them. And without further ado, here's my final design. Good morning, Carmen. Welcome to my online PDC presentation. I'm going to be designing the whole garden of our home, the statement of purpose for my vegetable garden. I thought I'd read it out to you. Our vegetable garden exists to nurture and grow our children's curiosity in the natural world, in a way that they value nature's ecological processes to regenerate the land, at the same time providing a healthy, nutrient-dense supply of food to nourish and feed our family in a safe and friendly environment. So the two main things: I wanted my garden to be a really educational place for our children, and two, to supply food. And I want that to be done within that permaculture type context. So this is our home, and that white area in the center is the area, my whole under management, so to speak. To my west, southwest, and south, I've got 3 neighbors. To my north, northeast, and east, we've got just bush. So we are in the game reserve. We've got a brick wall that goes around the house, and that's just to separate animals, wild animals, from our urban dwelling. So then I want to show you the infrastructure. And you can see that we've got the house in the middle, and that's a thatched house, a very traditional way of building houses in this part of the world. And then the extension, the kitchen and the bedroom, was a recent extension in the last 2 years, and that's just brick and mortar with a corrugated iron roof. And then the garage to the east of the property, or within the property, is also a corrugated iron. So these are the 3 main catchments for later, for when we're talking about water. Now my sectors I'm representing in just circular ways, and the thickness of the sector shows the relevance to how I perceive the relevance. So my fire sector runs all the way from the northeast to east of my property. Because we've got a high wall, that would prevent any small fires coming through. The likelihood of a big bushfire coming through here is very, very small. My main wind areas from the east. We're only really windy in 2 months of the year, I would say, or 3, August, September, October. Outside of that, the winds are quite moderate, nothing too hectic. It's just that end of our winter going into our summer when the winds start picking up. Then I've got 2 sectors that are sort of related to each other, the privacy and the noise. Let's deal with the privacy first. So there's a road that runs to the east of the property that's quite elevated, and a lot of people that walk or drive there can see from that road, see straight into our house. They look over the wall. So that's something I'll need to deal with. And then the noise, the same road, and there's another little cluster of houses to the east of us, and we're getting some noise, and that's a little bit more that the noise factor comes a little bit more around because of the road. Then the wildlife sector is from the south. Now, like I mentioned, we've got a brick wall, so I don't have any antelopes or anything managing to get into my garden, but our big factor would be monkeys. Then my sun sectors, you can see, because we are in the tropics, we're north of Capricorn, there's not that much variance between my summer and my winter sun. A little bit. I'm looking for where I can get some shade, and that's a vital factor. Or to sort of extend the growing season. It's sort of counterintuitive in this part of the world, because in the winter it's the perfect time to grow your summer vegetables. The temperatures are perfect. In our summer it starts getting too hot for a lot of your brassicas. Those are my sectors. What I wanted to show you a little bit was idea of shade. You can see this is my winter shade, and here's my summer shade, and how that relates to I've got a few predominantly really big trees, so you can see where the trees are and how that relates to the shade. Directly links to where the trees are, that the sun's coming straight above. Winter shade, it's slightly to the south. But you'll notice down in the bottom, there's that area's constantly got shade. So that's something that I picked up, and that area becomes vitally important, and we'll see that later in the design. Look at my water pre-design. So there's a lot of water that comes off the road. This blue line in the top here it functions like a swale. We dug it. The company dug it out because we've got a lot of sheet water moving across, and it's just to catch that and divert it away. And then we get a lot of runoff from the road straight into the garden, and then it goes straight through. Now, that's a lot of water that comes through, because I've got so much water coming into the system, and because of my high clay, I can't really infiltrate it. So if I want to infiltrate water into my ground, I need to reduce the amount of water coming in so I can manage it. And at the end of the presentation, you'll see how I've resolved that. Then we're going into our microclimates, just as a gauge. You can see I've identified 5 microclimates in conjunction with those trees. So this microclimate 1 is the shady area, both summer and winter. My microclimate 2 is to the east of the property, so I've got great morning. This is the area that you can see behind me. Got great morning light. Afternoon, there's a lot of shade cast over this area. Microclimate 3 is close to the house. It's a bit of a morning sun pocket here. And it's also where we've got the washing lines. Microclimate 4 is on the other side of the house. This is the trickiest one, the one that I need to manage the most, because it gets no morning light, and then in the afternoon it's got from about 11 o'clock in the morning all the way to sunset. It's hot, and you can see there against this bedroom wall that this bedroom wall gets incredibly hot throughout the day. So that's something that I'll need to manage. And then this area as a whole needs a little bit more shade and needs to be cooled down, so I'll need to design that into it. And then microclimate 4 got both afternoon and morning light throughout the day, and there's a few big shady trees. Soil assessments, you can see from the pictures I've got my clay content is really high, so that conjunction with the amount of water coming into the system, I can't infiltrate as much as I would like to. So we'll create ingenious ways to solve that problem. Then let's go my zone 1. So I've got 2 zones 1s, the one in the front. Now that's my sort of social area. It's basically grass lawn, and that's where my kids play and we socially interact. The braai and the sand pit are under those big trees in the center. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so I've made this big bed to accommodate that shady area. So here I'm just going to grow a lot of my annuals, and it will be quite a productive bed. To the right of that, we've got a big shady tree, and we've put in a social area here, a coffee table, where we can just sit and have coffees and stuff. And then around that is what I call my seedlings and nurseries, where we've got seedling trays, and we've got some of the trees that I'm growing. You can see them behind me here. If trees start germinating because of the way that they come through the compost, then I'll just chuck them in the pot and wait for them, and then we'll plant them later. Right next to, you can see the washing lines here. We've got another bed here, which is going to be sort of a perennial herb garden with edible flowers and things like that. Then I've got a trellis that will link into the garden here, and that will grow snap peas, cucumbers, that sort of thing. Then I've got the runoff off the kitchen that I'll catch in a gutter. It will go into a holding container that I can use it for the garden. The overflow will go into this microgreen bed, into a rain catchment there. Top of that, we'll have a little cutout to catch the water coming for the drainage, and I'll get into that a little later. So that's my zone 1. So my zone 2 is either side of that. The western side first. Okay, so we'll have a little cutout to catch water coming in, and I want to put a banana circle there and divert the water into that, and we'll actually dig in and put a lot of sand and compost and get the bananas in there so that water will come into that space. Up against the wall, I'm going to grow passion fruit up on a trellis on this side, so when that late morning sun hits the wall, it doesn't hit the wall directly, so that will start cooling it down. Then we're going to put a trellis on against or just off the wall on the bedroom, and I'm planning to grow either passion fruit there, but ideally first prize for me would be grapevines. In the summer, they've got their huge leaves block off the wall, and then in the winter those leaves can fall off and heat up the wall. Down in the bottom, annual bed that we have, but I'm going to have it set up for like a bit of a star with a fruit tree in the middle just to provide some shade. Then off the main bedroom roof, again a gutter system going to a holding tank. Overflow goes into our sugar cane. On the other side, like I mentioned, the two main things of the garden is to provide food and provide a place for learning. And what I'm really pushing with the kids is the understanding of nutrient cycling. So we've incorporated our chicken coop into our composting system, very similar to what Jeff Lawton did in Greening the Desert. It's quite similar to that, and I'm going to focus on that now. So outside our wall, I'm going to cut a gate through our wall, and then outside is what I refer to as our long composting, and we'll just collect whatever biomass I can, be it nitrogen, carbon, it doesn't really matter. Get as much as we can and accumulate it there, and let that slowly decompose in situ. Then once a week, we'll take a meter cubed and bring it into the chicken coop, and then I'll assess if it's carbon rich or nitrogen rich, and at that point compensate with the alternative to get the process going. Generally it will sit on the long composting for about 2 or 3 weeks before we bring it in. Then it's 4 weeks in the composting, and then at the top we've got a composting bin where it will mature, let the compost settle down after turning, and we'll collect it from there. And every morning the chickens are let into this area. This first space, you see there's a gate here, and the idea is it's a direct access from the kitchen door straight to and we've put in a gate there, and we'll chuck in our kitchen scraps there, and the chickens will get hold of it there. And this is the one, and every day the chickens turn this for us, and we'll just cluster it up in the evening, and the next day they'll get access to it again. Then within the chicken coop, either side, we're going to put mint to try and reduce the flies. And the chicken coop's roof has got corrugated iron. And again, that goes, we're not putting it into tanks, it will go straight into a rain garden underneath our mango trees. Then we've incorporated a worm farm. Because the chicken coop's raised, we've put in a worm farm. And that's the worm farm, the kitchen coop provides a safe place underneath, and then the worm farm, we get our worm juice, and that's to fertilize the garden as well as provide that microbacteria, microorganisms to the garden. This whole area is a mixture of perennial and annual veggies. Then we've got some tree guilds at the top here, mostly figs. Along our fence we're growing passion fruit, and all along here there's the strawberries, lemongrass, and so forth. So then our zone 3 is in that front area. I've put in a zone 3 there and a little bit, but then we've incorporated a majority of our zone 3 actually outside the garden. Okay, let's just work from what's inside the confines. So I want to plant a lot of trees inside the garden, but right up against the wall. 1, to provide a little bit more shade for where the kids play, and 2, to create a physical barrier for all the balls that keep flying out. So 2 functions there. On this side, inside the garden, we've got a macadamia and 2 avos here, and that's just to cast shade into this area here. Now the main area My zone 3 is just outside my garden, and it's basically built around a swale system. So it's a tree growing system. So I'm going to have some more mangoes, mulberries, and others growing here. And this is to address my issues with the the wind. The privacy is dealt with. I've got some bamboo that I've planted, and that's to stop the view. So I've got bamboo, mangoes, avos, and mulberries to create a physical barrier for the wind, privacy, and noise. So that this whole area is to prevent those three materials. So I want to grow all the comfrey outside that catches that nutrients that's caught by the swales, and then it goes into my long composting, and that's how it will come into my garden. My zone 4 is the wilderness area. Okay, let me show you what the plan is with the water post design. You can see it there, and that would divert a lot of the main water into the swale system. Catch the water, let it circulate, and then come around. And once it starts percolating into the soil here, because the general drainage is from the northeast to the southwest, the water should enter the garden underneath the wall, inside the soil, slowly pass through. There's a natural drainage system here that goes out through past my neighbors and then goes out like that. Inside the yard, so now we've got a lot less water coming in, but it's a lot more manageable. Here you'll see where the path comes, and then we've cut a rain garden. What I'm going to do is just dig a big hole, fill it with rocks and sand, and then cover it with soil and mulch. It can follow these paths into the rain, and I've done that in 3 places. My growing beds, because I'm adding so much compost and mulch, and they level, these will become living sponges. So what water hits here is infiltrated in straight away. In essence, that is my design as it looks there. I've tried to get this all in 10 minutes, and I think it might be a little bit over, but thank you again for a wonderful PDC. Thank you. Bye. I hope you enjoyed my final design. There's a lot of information, and for me to try and get it into 10 minutes was difficult. Ended up going to 15 minutes. You can see already, and I specifically came here, that one patch which was grass, I've already completely implemented the design here already. I just need to put up my granadillas, and then this part of the design is done. The only thing I'm going to say about Verge, and it's not Verge's fault, I completely was aware of it before I got into it. I didn't realize how much of a factor it was till it started happening. And that was that Verge, because they're a Canadian company, a lot of their focus was on cold climates. So the fundamentals of permaculture and permaculture design was brought across perfectly. I get it, and you can take those fundamentals and those principles and apply it anywhere in the world. And so from that respect, job well done Verge. In context of little tidbits of advice from experience, little things, little nuances that a trainer could give you of advice and things that they've experienced, and share and pass it on. Because they don't have warm climates or tropics context, or I'm sure they've got the experience, because I know Rob worked with Jeff Lawton for a long time in Australia, so I'm sure he's well aware of, and he's got that experience with doing permaculture in the tropics. It's just his audience were predominantly cold climate people, so his advice and his tidbits of information was centered around that. So little bits of additional information was not relevant to me, and I found that was the one stickler. The rest of the course was absolutely fantastic. Well presented, the website and the interactive, and the way they presented, and they brought in a lot of specialists in different fields. So that was great, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you're interested in doing your PDC, it seems like most of these companies do their PDCs once a year, because it takes 3 or 4 months to put across the information, and then you have to present it in a video. So if you've got over 100 students presenting a 10-minute video, or 15 minutes in my case, you can imagine that it's going to take quite a while to go through that, and then they'll present back, as I understand it, a 3 to 5 minute video giving feedback on your design. So you can imagine that whole process is going to be 6 or 7 months. So then the rest of the year they'll need to use that for their business. So it's completely understandable that a company would do a PDC once a year. And from my own research, seems most companies do that. So if you're interested in doing a PDC with Verge, be on the lookout for their marketing. Probably around September, October is when I started to pick it up. If you want to get hold of me privately, and I don't know what more I can say. That's quite honest feedback from me. But if you've got any questions, please bomb them below or get hold of me on social media. And I'm happy to answer anything. Cheers. Please like, subscribe, and share this with as many people as you can. Cheers. Bye.